This is the World Innovators Podcast with your host, Donna Peterson.
I am so happy today to be sitting down with my good friend, Doug Glenn. Doug Glenn is the publisher of Heat Treat Today. And in our talk today, he's going to tell us about the heat treat industry, what challenges they have, maybe where it might be going into the future. But then he's also going to get into some insight about what it's like to be marketing such an industry-specific publication. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson, and this is the World Innovators Podcast, where I talk to innovators all over the world about their businesses, about their marketing, what trends are working, what challenges they're having, and where they may see the future going. So let's jump in. Good afternoon, Doug.
Hello, Donna. How are you?
I can't complain. The sun is out and the birds are chirping. So
yeah, it's a good day.
It certainly is. So I wanted you to help educate myself and also our readers about the heat treat industry. Like, what is it and where do you see it going, or what challenges are you having right now in the industry?
Yeah, thanks for asking. First, and thanks for having me on, Donna. You've been a tremendous help to us, and it's a pleasure, always a pleasure talking with you. So the heat treat industry is kind of it's a difficult industry to really, for most people to get their head around. It's if you can imagine anything that's metal, let's just start with metal, because 95% of what we deal with is stuff that's made of metal. Everything that's made of metal at some point in time, and perhaps 2 or 3 times in its production process, it gets heat treated. So there's aluminum foil, nuts and bolts, aerospace parts, landing gear on aerospace, almost all of your car parts that are metal at some point in time have been put into a furnace, like your oven at home, except much higher temperature, taken up to that temperature, quenched at a certain rate to give it certain metallurgical, physical properties so that it doesn't break, crack, or it does bend without breaking. In the case of aluminum foil, for example, if you ever think about it, here's aluminum foil. Why does it bend so easily and not crack? Why is that?
Yeah.
It's because it's been heat treated. It's been annealed. So now you can form it into printer any shape you want. There's other metal you cannot bend, right? There's some wire you can bend, other wire you could try as hard as you want. It's not going to bend simply because of the heat treating on it. So in almost every manufacturing plant across the United States, Canada, Mexico, worldwide, if they're making something of metal, they are either putting it in their own furnaces or something we call an induction heating unit, which is not exactly a furnace. They're either doing that themselves under the roof where they're manufacturing, or they're shipping it out to somebody else whose business is simply to do the heat treating and then ship it back to them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, and is there one industry over another where the heat treat is used?
Not really. It's broad-based. Of course, in plastics, there you would not have any heat treating of the plastics at the temperatures we're talking about, because you'd open up the door and there'd be a pool of little plastic. It would not be good. It would not be good. So, but if anything with, like I say, anything with metals, the markets that we target specifically with our publication, Heat Treat Today, we target aerospace, automotive, medical, and energy. And energy can include oil and gas. That would be, digging wells for gas, pipelines, could be solar, could be wind power. If you think about it, all those big wind turbines that people see out in the world, inside of those, the container behind the propeller, if you will, is a bunch of gears. All of those gears need to be well heat treated because nobody wants to climb up there and change out a gear. So that's those are the markets. But really, it can be anything. Hand tools. I think you've got something on the wall behind you there, north, south, east, and west. I assume that's metal. Maybe not.
Yes, it is. Yes,
it has undoubtedly.
Metal.
Yeah, undoubtedly, it has been heat treated. Right? Undoubtedly, it's been heat treated at some point in time. So pretty much any market.
That's fascinating. It's. We all go around and we buy these things, but you don't think about exactly how it came into existence and the different steps it went through to get here.
Yeah. Let me tell you one really interesting. I was just talking with a guy this week. I was down in Florida at the Metal Treating Institute spring meeting. And I was talking with a man down there who was involved with oil and gas, right? And I mentioned to him that when I was the publisher of another magazine previously, we ran a column on the drilling rig, or the drilling bit, if you will, that drilled down through the earth to rescue the Chilean miners. Do you remember it was back in
Yes.
2013, okay?
Right.
So the bit that was used to dig a hole large enough to get men in this case, out of that thing was heat treated, was built and heat treated in Pittsburgh, PA, right? So the company that did this, we had a picture of the two of the guys, not the miners, but two of the guys that worked on this bit, crouching down beside this drill bit. But if it had not been heat treated properly, they would have not got down there near as quickly and have rescued those men. So again, heat treating, if you don't have heat treating, planes don't fly, planes fall out of the sky, cars don't drive. So heat treating is critical. It's just nobody knows about it.
Yeah, they don't. And so, well, that's why we're here. We're going to tell the whole world about heat treat. So on your publication, what type of titles would read your magazine?
So primarily we're looking at engineers or engineering management in a manufacturing plant. That's our target. So if they're a manufacturing plant that has their own in-house heat treat department, and they're in typically a purchasing decision typically if they have purchasing responsibility, like an engineer, typically management, those types of people. Metallurgist is also a very big title for us. These are the guys who would want to get and have interest in our publication.
Yeah, because you couldn't just go across the board to all fabricated metal products, right? You would like to get it a little bit more fine-tuned.
Correct. Yeah, and then there's one other group that I mentioned earlier, but so you've got the manufacturers who have their own in-house heat treat. In other words, they don't have to ship it out. But there's a whole other world, the Metal Treating Institute, which I just mentioned. That organization is an organization of commercial heat treaters. They manufacture nothing, but they do all of the heat treating for all of the manufacturers who don't have their own in-house heat treat.
Okay.
So it's kind of two different worlds. We call the first one, the big group, the captive heat treaters, because their heat treat is captive inside of their manufacturing. And then the commercial heat treaters are the guys who just do the heat treating and then ship it back to the manufacturer.
Very interesting. And now Heat Treat Today has been named the official publication, right?
Right. The official publication of the Metal Treating Institute, right? Which is it's the largest network of commercial heat treaters in the world. Basically, there's 300 some commercial heat treat members, which represents maybe about half of all commercial heat treaters in North America. So it's the largest network in the world though.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations. That's a great honor to be their official publication, because obviously you must have great content.
Well, thanks. We're honored. We're doing our best to live up to the responsibility.
Good. So now, how do you continue to keep your subscribers engaged with your publication?
So predominantly we do two things. I mean, as you know, Donna, you know this well, across all publications, right? Content is king. Yes. You've got to have good content. You've got to have good content, but we look at it as more than just good content. I mean, and how do you define good content, really? What does that mean? So for us, we give our editors 3 jobs. We ask them to find it, to filter it, and to format it, right?
I like it.
The 3 Fs.
Yeah.
So, and it's difficult to find good content and or create good content, right? So that's the task, and we're continually educating our editors about what is useful to the captive heat treaters. That we're educating them continually. So we ask them to find it, and then they have to filter it. So, some of the stuff they find might not be exactly what our readers would be looking for. So we ask them to filter that stuff out, because there are services out there, to remain nameless, who basically will capture anything that has the word heat treat in it and present it to an audience. Okay, well, there's a lot of different things that say heat treat that really aren't appropriate to the heat treat market, right? For example, you don't want to Google hot oil, which is definitely a heat treat term, but when you Google it, you're going to get a lot of stuff you really don't want to get for the heat treat market, right? So That's not good. So we filter it. We find it, we filter it, and then probably one of the keys that is one of the ways we keep our audience engaged is we format it so that it's easily digestible.
Well, that's a key. That's key.
It's key. They've got, we've got all of 30, depending on where they are, we've got anywhere from 3 to 30 seconds to capture their attention. So we try to do that. And we also format it in the sense that we'll deliver it to them in print. We'll deliver it to them in an e-newsletter. We'll deliver it to them audio through podcasts. We actually are one of the first and probably the most populated podcast producers in the heat treat industry. Yes, there is such a thing as a heat treat podcast.
I have listened to a few, even though they've been a little bit over my head, but I have listened to a few.
Yeah. Well, the dirty secret is most of them are over my head too. But if you ask the right questions, you're okay. So that's how we keep their attention. To answer your question, we find it, we filter it, we format it, and we're always continually educating ourselves as to what's of value to our readers. So
yes. And I think it's probably great that Heat Treat Today also says you want to specialize in specific industries, because I would imagine the filtering process, then you also, besides making sure it's the right heat treat, but also that it's appropriate for those industries.
Yes, we target those markets. So here's a bit of a nuance on that. We will publish anything that's appropriate for any manufacturer who has their own in-house heat treat, regardless of the fact whether it's aerospace, automotive, medical, and energy.
Okay.
But when we go out to find subscribers, people who are interested, those are the 4 top markets we pick, because honestly, those are fairly significant markets.
Yeah.
But simply because we're doing that, because we're targeting those markets and we're providing good content and we're ranking high on SEO and things of that sort, people from all different types of industries outside of aerospace, automotive, medical, and energy find us. They come to us and they subscribe simply because we're out there.
Yeah. No, that's great. Now, do you go worldwide? Do you pull people from all over the world?
We do, but again, it's one of those deals where we don't target anything outside of North America. Our core target market is North America, and I just want to say the reason that's the case, with a little bit of pride here, is because I firmly believe that that North America, US most specifically, is going to be the central hub for manufacturing for at least the next 2 decades. Okay. And that's unless government messes it up. But we're going to be predominantly, we're going to be a hub for manufacturing. You're going to see more and more manufacturing coming back to the States because of low energy costs. Manufacturing follows energy, right? Cheap energy, that's where you're going to manufacture. So we target North America for our subscribers, but the fact of the matter is, I was looking the other day, and I think we've probably got 10% maybe of people that have subscribed from outside the US. And
because
we'll take them.
They search you. They're searching you out, and then they subscribe.
They find us, right? It's not, and we love them.
Yeah.
We don't love them any less than our North American people, but for our advertisers, the people who are paying the bills, yeah, we want them to know that our target is the North American heat treat market, Canada, US, Mexico.
Right. Oh, great. Well, that's good to know. Now, when you're talking about your podcast before, do you use that as an advertising vehicle? Do you let people come in and do you advertise them within your podcast?
Yes, we can, but to be quite honest, we want our target. I've not monetized it as much as we could, right? Mm-hmm. Our goal is to make it really helpful content. And we figure it's the field of dreams. If we build it, they will come, So right now.
Did you just see my recent blog?
I did not. What was it? Did you do a Kevin Costner on us?
I did. Matter of fact, there's a clip from the Field of Dreams, because I was talking to industrial auction companies, but I just said, if you build a strategic marketing strategy, they will come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's when maybe you're just doing this and you're doing that, they may not come. So yes, I did an excerpt from Field of Dreams, because I love that movie,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. And I think that's the case. I mean, with our podcast, it's kind of the same way. I figure if we build good content,
yes, then
people are going to want to advertise rather than us trying to force it on anybody or whatnot. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will, if they have podcasts, wonder the same thing. How the heck do you monetize these podcasts? It is difficult, but I say, you know, focus on making it good content. Sooner or later, it will pay off.
I was at a marketing meeting the other day and someone said, well, Donna, you're doing the podcast. How are you monetizing it? And I said, to be honest, I'm not. I'm
Right.
using it for an educational purpose. I'm just giving out information because just like you, more people need to speak about the heat treat industry. We need to
Right.
speak about doing reputable marketing.
Yeah.
And I listened to a speech in our Toastmasters Club this morning, and it was this gentleman who was speaking, and he was saying, what makes a good presenter and a bad one? And he says, most of the best presenters aren't standing backstage saying, I hope I get a standing ovation. If we get it, great. He goes,
Right.
but they're all about giving.
Right.
Not about receiving.
Yeah.
And
I would agree.
Yeah, and I think that works well for companies, especially in your specific niche. You know, giving out that information to people has to be extremely helpful. So I can see why, you know, you haven't really tried hard to monetize the podcast at this point.
I will tell you, I get a kick out of it because it's really funny that as far as I don't know if I'm speaking out of school here or not, but revenue streams, right? Revenue streams for a publisher like me, the vast majority of it comes in from print editions, believe it or not, right? Even this digital age, we get most of our revenue coming from print editions because that's where people still want to put most of their money. And be quite honest, a lot of people are still reading print. But what's funny is our podcasts, they make essentially no money. But every time we go to a trade show or any time I stop in at a customer, the first thing, undoubtedly, the first thing out of my, hey, you're doing those podcasts, you know, that's pretty neat. That's what they notice. Of course, they're not willing to pay for it, but that's what they notice. So it's good for us.
Well, it puts a face with the voice, and I feel like they get to know you, you know, from the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, so that's good. It's interesting what you just said about your magazine. And we did a promotion years ago. We found that engineers do respond better to more textual messaging versus images. And so I could see why the print magazine would be, you know, more responsive for them. Yeah.
It's a bit of a quagmire to get out of because everybody you talk to says, well, we're going more digital this year. We're going more digital. We just got done conducting 2 studies under this new little branch of our business called heat treat research. All right. So we did 2 studies and we asked the same question at the end of both. And the question basically was, if you're going to be looking for heat treat information, would you rather have it in digital or in print? All right. Or both, you know, 3 options: print only, digital only, or both. Over half of the people said both.
Okay.
And about, depending 40, let's say 30% would say print only and about 20% would say digital only. So you think about it, if a publisher drops their print edition, they're losing anywhere from 30 to 40% of their audience. Yeah. Now, doesn't make sense to me to do that, right? Even though the expenses are much higher on the print side of things, you're still reaching the market. And listen, you know, you and I were talking before we hit the record button. It's about being helpful to people.
Yes.
Right? It's about bringing value to people. And if you're wanting to be helpful, well, sorry if it still costs you a little more money. Let's not be greedy. You know, let's provide helpful information and let the chips fall where they may.
Plus, I can see a magazine as specific as yours. It's not one of those where you just go like this. It's going to be a magazine where you might take an article and want to digest it and maybe go back to it for reference too. Yeah. And it's great to have a physical copy there.
Yeah, exactly right. And the guy, you've probably heard this too, the guy I was talking to just the other day, he said, it's kind of hard to ignore a print copy when it's laying on your desk or on your coffee table. He says it's real easy to let the email that came in it disappears. And if it doesn't pop up again, unless you go looking for it. So yeah, there's still a lot of value behind print that people don't acknowledge.
And you hear from people every day. They're getting, you know, at least 100 to 200 emails a day. So think about it, as that scrolls down, you're not going to remember to go back to that publication there. But like that gentleman says, if it's sitting on your desk, You know, I know for me, I'll get magazines from all sorts of industries and I never throw them out. Just because I figure these people took the time, even it might be Storage Terminal Magazine, I still go through it. And I'm not quite sure why I do that because
Yeah, yeah. I don't see you in that market. I don't see you in that market.
it's such a beautiful magazine and they spent the effort to send it in. It warrants, you know, a glance through it. And back to yours about the publications, at this point, I think it would be very short-sighted for any publication to drop their print if they kept it going all this time. Because you're seeing now a big turn. You know, more people are going back to print. Direct mail is picking back up. Because, you know, I think, you know, our company was founded 40 years ago, and it was helping companies with direct mail and getting mailing lists. And of course, we evolved as marketing did, but now you're seeing the tides change.
Right.
Because email is so inundated and social media is out there and everyone is selling instead of giving.
That's right.
So direct mail is on its way back. So as a publisher, I think it would be short-sighted if at this point you kept it going all these years. Don't stop now.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I mean, typically, the way I've always looked at it is if you decide, if a publisher decides to go away from print, it's usually a sign, it's a symptom of something else that's going on in the company. And that usually means they're starting to lose money. So they always think, well, listen, my profit margins on my digital content are so much higher. Let's get rid of the lower margin items, i.e. print, and let's just focus on the digital. Well, yeah, if you're in the money game and you've got your CFO running your company as opposed to your, you know, someone who's thoughtful and wants to help people, go ahead and do that. So anyhow.
But it's funny because you'll see all these digital brands using direct mail now. You know, Google uses it, Facebook uses it, you know, they all use it. So we should follow lead and do it. So what would you say as a specific niche publication, what are some of your biggest challenges that you have when you're marketing?
So there's two ways, there are two audiences we market to. Obviously, acquiring readers are, you know, people who are reading the publication. That's one way we market, and there are certain specific challenges we face with that. And then the other people we market to, of course, are our advertisers, which, to be quite frank, is a lot easier to market to because it's a very well-defined market, right? And their needs are fairly predictable. I mean,
and they know you. They must know you and the industry, so they know where Heat Treat today stands. Yes.
Yeah. If they don't know us, they will. So, we're, as I've told a lot of them, we're politely aggressive over here on this side. So we're gonna find you. If you don't know us, we're gonna find you, and you'll know us.
Well, I think between your magazine, your newsletter, your podcast, you know, your daily digest, I think it's called. I think you will.
Yeah, Heat Treat Daily.
Heat Treat Daily. I think you'll find them.
Yeah, we'll find them, and hopefully we'll be, you know, of interest to them. The difficult part, and this is what you've been really super helpful with us on, and that is audience development.
Yes.
I tell everybody that joins our organization, I tell them, listen, there are 3 pillars of success for our publication if we're going to be successful, right? It's content, audience development, and promotion. Promotion meaning primarily promotion to our advertisers and things of that sort. So audience development is, as you know, I don't need to tell you this, right? It's a real art. It's and having somebody with the expertise that you have to understand where you can find the good lists, how to nurture those good lists, and then how to gather the information, which we're not perfect at by any stretch. How to dig deeper into each record. How do we know what type of equipment they're using in our market? There's several specific demographics that we talk about, but how to nurture those, that's a real challenge. So there's not an easy answer there. How do we do it? The advertisers, it's easy. We do all kinds. We're constantly in front of them.
Yes, and when you have to keep your audience up, your numbers up to keep the advertisers happy. So you know they have to work together. And it was interesting. Yesterday, I was talking to a university who has an executive education program, and they said they just spent $10,000 a month promoting their education program, but they didn't get one response. They didn't even get, a click on the emails that they sent. And I said, well, what were they doing? And they went out to everyone who did continuing ed. And I'm like, well, No, so I think like what you're saying, you have to make sure you get lists or sources that are specific and reaching the target audience. Because, like we said, there's so many emails and messages out there now. And since COVID, it's all about relationship. And
Right.
I'm a strong believer that you've got to get your brand out there in a consistent way. That builds the trust. And with the trust comes the relationships, which then lets the person decide if they need your product or service. Gone are the days, you and I have been around for a while, and gone are the days where you send off a one-off promotion and all these sales come in. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. And that is another thing that is, anybody that's in the publishing business knows it's a constant battle with our clients, with our advertisers. It's like they say, well, we ran an ad, but we didn't get anything out of it. Okay. When was the last time you bought something from somebody you saw one time? I mean, it just doesn't happen. This is the other thing I tell our sales team, right? And some people give me pushback on this, but I think when they stop and think about it, they understand that it's true. The truth is everybody, and I'm going to state this very carefully. I'm going to choose my words carefully, right? Everybody always buys emotionally all the time. Okay. That's an emphatic, just in case you didn't notice that there are no exceptions. Okay. I'll stand by it.
And even on the B2B side.
Even on the B2B side.
Yeah, because some people say no, not. Yeah.
Yeah. And even engineers.
Right.
If you can believe it, right? They're emotional creatures and here's how we can say that. I mean, most people say, no, you're full of whatever, but I said, no, it's not. I say, think about it. When was the last time you bought something when you had options before you? When was the last time you bought something that you were less comfortable with than the other guy? Let's say you had just two options, whatever they are, right? Which one are you going to ultimately purchase from? You're going to purchase from the guy that you're most comfortable with.
Yes.
Now, how you get to be comfortable, it may be completely different depending on the type of person you are. If you're an engineer, typically you become comfortable because you've looked at the data and you feel like you've done enough research and then la-di-da, whatever it is that you needed to do to get comfortable. But guess what? Comfort is an emotion, right? So the only way you're going to end up buying from this guy is if you're comfortable with him. And you do not get comfortable with people unless you see them regularly, unless you're with them regularly, unless you know them regularly. That's why a one-off doesn't work.
Yes, but that's why your podcast works. You know how, like you said, you don't get a lot of revenue from it, but when you walk into a place, the first thing they say is, "Oh, you're the one with the podcast."
Yes, exactly.
And if they listen to any of your podcasts, they know what you're talking about, which then puts you as a thought leader and as the publisher of Heat Treat Today.
Right.
Shows that that's the magazine you need to be reading.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the case.
Well, it is
one way. It is definitely one way we get them comfortable with us. And the other thing we did, we started early. I think I mentioned this to you, Dawn, in another one of our conversations, was that one of the first things we did, we put the website up there, right? That's how we started back in 2016. We put the website up there. The very next thing we did was we put together a daily newsletter, which we made sure got to all of our suppliers so that every day they were seeing us every day. So,
keeps your brand top of mind.
Yeah.
And so they get it, and then if they need anything from you or whatever, they're going to call you first.
Right. It's not a one-off. That's the point, right?
Yeah. It's not. People are just too busy now, so it's not the one-off. But yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying. That's just my cup of tea. So you and I've talked about that. So we're brewing the space. So
preaching to the choir here.
Yes, we are. So what do you see for the future, whether it's Heat Treat Today industry, your marketing?
So Dawn, are you asking me what do I see for the future as far as the heat treat industry or as far as publishing in the heat treat industry?
Publishing in the heat treat industry. Why don't we stick with that?
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be, people don't change. Ultimately, people don't change. They're going to continue to need information. There's going to continue to be a wide variety of ways for people to get their information out there.
Right.
Google searches and things of that sort can certainly do the trick, but a lot of times they find the information out there, but it's not filtered and it's certainly not formatted to the way that it's most useful.
They can digest it. Yeah.
Right. So I continue to see that we'll continue to grow in the number of ways that we communicate our information, but the information exchange is not going out of business, right? Everybody's still going to want to know what's the latest information here?
Yeah.
What are the latest products? What are the latest technologies? What are the latest processes in the heat treat industry, right? So that's not going to go away. I think we just always have to be on our toes and innovative, given, there you go, name of a company we know, have to be innovative about how we present that information, right?
Yes. Yes.
So to me, that's it. I tell our team, I say, listen, they get sick of hearing me say it, I think sometimes, but I say, listen, it's keep the ideas coming.
Yes.
You know, 9 out of 10 ideas we may do nothing with, but don't let the fact that we didn't do anything with your ideas,
discourage you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Discourage you from bringing more ideas, because you know, that's it. So I've got one other right-hand person, Karen Ganser, who's our COO. I say, listen, when people bring ideas, the first thing we want to do is encourage the fact that they brought it. Thank you very much. This is great. I don't know if we'll do anything with it, but listen, we got to have a lot of bad ideas before we have a good one. So keep them coming. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what we'll continue to do. I think in the heat treat industry, continue to innovate and try to find new ways to reach people and give them the information they want, when and where they want it.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And I was just thinking, you know, you're seeing such a push right now in the knowledge industry. You know, people are saying, oh, do you need to go for these college degrees, or do you need to go this? And I believe you still need your education, but people do a lot more researching beforehand, or if they have a problem at work. So if it's heat treat, you know, they're going to research it before they go out. And so, like you said, keeping the ideas out there and keeping it going across several different channels is going to help, you know, publishers succeed in whatever industry they're in.
Yes, I agree.
Good.
The other trend we might see, and I'm not sure I know the answer to this, is more information specialization. Like we've got in the heat treat industry, you've got people, for example, who use, I know this term may mean nothing to anybody that's not in the heat treat industry, but you may have people who are using induction heating equipment.
Okay.
It's a specific type of equipment they use to heat something. They could really care less about vacuum heat treating equipment and air heat treating equipment, atmosphere heat treating equipment. They could care less. So if we can specialize information directly to them, that will be helpful. So specialization, and we do have the technology to do stuff like that. So the more we can customize our content to our audience, the better. And I think as we move forward, we'll be able to do that better and better.
Yeah, you can even offer little courses, you know, that you could then go into a company and do. I know World Innovators, we're going to be launching a course I think it's at the end of June. And it's all about the B2B direct marketing space. And I know it's not as technical as your heat treat space, but there's so much that's not being taught in colleges in regards to the B2B side.
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm going to sign me up. I think it's a good idea. Seriously, because it is. They don't teach you this stuff, and it's B2B, but also industrial B2B is different than B2B. You know, so it's got its own nuances. But yeah, that sounds like a great course.
Well, because there's companies they just don't know, and the thing is, if you don't know, you're like this university, like I said, going out after executive education, but they're just throwing that big, huge net, and we know that doesn't work anymore. That's like one-offs. You know, you got the one-offs, and then you got the huge net. You can't do this. It has to be more specialized now. So,
right.
It's interesting. Well, this has been great. I don't want to hold you much longer, but before you go, I have to ask my favorite question. As you know, I'm a strong believer that health and fitness feeds into the energy we bring to our work. And so I want to know, what does Doug Glenn that energizes you to be innovative with Heat Treat today?
Well, first off, it's pretty obvious that you're into fitness and energy, Donna. Okay, you're
because I'm here going like this.
So that's good. No, and I agree with you. I agree. There's a definite connection. It's work is part of the entirety of life, right? And as you ought to, you don't live to work, you work to live, right? So For me personally, I'm a strong believer. I'm a very dedicated, if I can say so. Hopefully people that know me will say so. I'm a dedicated Christian person. I believe that, Christ has given me a lot of very, very good things in life, and being able to teach others about metallurgy, which is something that he created, he knows more about than anybody.
Yes.
Being able to teach people those things is, to me, it's a joy. It's an encouragement, and I enjoy doing it. So what really energizes me is just knowing that, I'm loved by the one who made me, and I'm here to serve and to help people. So hopefully, not every day I get up do I feel quite that happy, but that is my goal, though.
Well, you are human,
Right, yeah.
I do think of us sometimes as just a vessel to doing good things, and like we said, giving and helping others.
Right.
And I think when you do that, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
My thinking.
One of my not to belabor it, but one of my favorite verses out of the Bible is, for even the Son of Man, meaning Jesus Christ, right? For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So Christians are called to emulate Christ. So if I can give my life a ransom for many, that would be great. Obviously, I'm not going to save anybody, but if I can help them and serve them, that's good. So.
Well, indirectly though, because you did tell us about, the Chilean miners that you got out through the retreat. So, don't discount what you're doing.
True. I think we talked about that before we hit the record button, but there you go.
All right. Well, that's another story for another day.
Yeah. You can ad lib on that one.
You know what, Doug? That was our teaser, so that they listen in the next time. So
yeah, there you go. That was a pretty fascinating story, though.
Yes, it was.
I think it was before we hit the record button. If not, okay, no problem.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and it was great talking to you today.
Donna, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for your expertise as well. I recommend it. I recommend you to anybody who's listening. You do a great job for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the World Innovators Podcast. For more information about today's topic, email us at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com or call 860-210-8088. And please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode.